Guys, this is some tutorial that we're gonna be doing right now. A Mark III model, very popular, one of my favorites, if not my favorite model armor that I like. You can see right away on the right hand we have the converted true scale model. On the left, the regular size model, and both of them come from the plastic kit, the regular plastic kit from GW. Nothing special here, guys. Anybody can do this. This is something that anybody can do. You don't need too much skills, just to learn a few techniques, and you will be able to do something like this or even better than this. And we're gonna start with model. This is the plastic kit. Everybody knows GW. Nothing special. And we're gonna true scale and give this guy an excellent pose. You know, I'm big on poses, guys. This is not just about making the model big. I want to repeat and make that thing clear. This is not just about making the model big. If you do not create a nice pose and eye appeal in the model, an equilibrium in the pose, then all what you're doing is just making a model big, and you're gonna have a bad looking big model. That's it. And that is not the object of changing the models, at least the way I do it. We're gonna add a small piece of plastic card in one of the feet. You make sure that you check which feet, how you want the model to look. Start making your imagination fly. I always do this is 1 millimeter, so it will not even be noticed at the end when you finish the model. It will not even be noticed that that feet is not touching the ground. But that small trick is gonna give you some different look in the model. We're gonna do the same thing with the other feet too. We're gonna do the same thing, but in this case we're gonna put a piece of sprue which is gonna be higher in the ground. You will see the effects later. There you go, guys. So you see one of the feet has the plastic card and the other one has the plastic sprue that everybody else has laying around in the house. The joints have been cut. I always do this. I don't follow the rules when it comes to putting the leg with the corresponding piece of leg that comes in the instruction booklet. In this joints, I cut them sometimes one, sometimes both sides right there, and I reposition the legs, and this is gonna give me a different point of balancing the model, making the model look different. Remember, this method is called balance multipoint way of making models big and kit bashing, true scaling models. And exactly is because of that, because you have to make a few changes, balance changes in a few places, few points in the model, and so you can achieve a better looking pose, different pose than if you just follow the booklet that comes in the box. And we're using Tamiya plastic extra thin glue, and you see right away in one feet is the plastic card and then the other feet is the plastic sprue, and you see right away that is giving us a different angle in the way that the model is going to be looking in the future. This step of placing the feet this way is going to affect everything else that you do later in the model. This is a very, very important. This is the base of the rest of the model, and it's going to affect anything else that you do: the waist, the head, the angle of the arms, and everything else. So I pay a lot of attention to this part of the building process. And you can see right away the changes. Later you're gonna notice that it's gonna be, let me see, maybe it's 1 millimeter in one of the feet. A very small change, but it's gonna help us a lot. A small trick that give us a different way of achieving a new pose in the model. And I want the model to look a little bit upward, so I decided to put a tiny piece of plastic sprue on the front of the model, so it will give us kind of like a more upward look later. And then we're gonna have to do the same thing on the other side, so we can fill that gap in the front of the plastic sprue, so the model will be solid, touching actually the base, and it's not gonna move later. So we're gonna put there a little bit of plastic glue, Tamiya plastic glue, and add the little piece. Remember, one more time, I want to repeat, this is not just about making models big. This is about balancing different changes that you're going to make in different points in the model, thus calling the method a balanced multi-point kit bashing method. At this point, I'm going to be using the plastic glue so I can seal the model and the pieces of plastic and plastic card that I have placed under the feet. Be very careful, guys. Very important not to put any plastic glue on top of the model. So be very careful in this case, just to go around and making sure that you create a bridge point of contact between the base, the plastic piece that you place under the feet, and then the model. The glue can touch under the feet, but make sure it doesn't touch any part of the feet above. Otherwise, you will have problems later when you add sand or terrain. If you want any reference to see how I use the Tamiya plastic glue, you can see one of our previous videos where I touch the subject in more detail. We are applying right now more glue, making sure we cover everything. So the model is very stable. This gives us a very realistic way of the model standing in the base. It's one of the reasons that I don't like pinning too much, because in my opinion it doesn't give you too much realism. You know, I'm big in poses and realism, and that's the way I concentrate my work mostly. Not just painting the models, but creating very unique balance poses. And in this method, the balance multi-point method of creating models, and you need to do a few tricks on a few points in the model so you balance and create a more natural look. So this is looking good, guys, and now we are going to compare this guy to one that has been placed in the base just following the instructions that come in the GW box. And as you can see right away, it gives us a very different look in the way the feet are placed. I repeat one more time, this part of the construction process is very important, because it's going to affect big time whatever you do later in the model. So I put a lot of attention to this part of the building process. Is the base, because everything else comes on top. And you can see right away that the model already looks big, and once we add the sand, it's gonna look very natural. I mean, you will not even notice that one of the feet is not touching actually the base. It's gonna look like it is just placed on top of the base and there's nothing under the feet. I always like to put one of the legs higher than the other one. That kind of gives an off balance that later you can balance with the torso, giving the model actually movement feeling. Just keep adding more glue, and now we're gonna just put the model in sand, just regular sand that you can get anywhere. And what happens with the sand is that the sand sticks very, very well. It's a very durable way of making bases. It will stick very well to the base. In this case, you can see if you're happy with the pose. You can still make a few changes. If you're not, later it's going to be harder. And just add more glue, being very careful, surrounding the feet in a complete way. As I was saying, I'm not very fond of pinning models. Sometimes I have to see a lot of models that don't look, that they're just actually like floating. They're not really touching the ground, and I think that kind of ruins the effect of a natural looking model. But then in this way, using the Tamiya glue and then the sand, they mix very well, and you achieve a very natural looking model, actually walking on a battlefield. I'm going to make sure that I put the glue under the feet. You can put some more glue on the side. You can use small pieces of rock too. You can use small terrain pieces. Sometimes you can add a pure Tamiya plastic glue to make sure that the glue flows better. And then the glue and the pure plastic cement will mix and help the sand stick better to the base. Take your time in this step, guys. As I said before, you're going to appreciate a good base model. You can do the sand part at the end of the building process. For the purposes of the video, I'm doing it here. But you can do it now or you can do it later. It's up to you guys. And it's coming out really good. Just complete. You can do part or you can do the entire base cover and sand. It's up to you. And make sure that you don't put too much too, just enough so the glue can stick. And right there you can see the difference. It looks very good. It looks like actually the guy is stepping on top of the terrain. We haven't lose any of the detail in the feet, and we have gained some height in the model with that very few two tricks actually. The one on switching the legs and actually putting that small piece of sprue and plastic car under the feet. We already probably made the model 1.5 millimeters bigger than the regular model. Now you can add some terrain. In this case, we're gonna add some skulls to give them a kind of grimy, dark look. I'm a fan of the realistic grim dark look. I'm not too much fan of putting grass, green grass, and flowers in my models. I like to make sure that it looks like they're walking in a battlefield. It looks good. You can also add a piece of plastic sprue that you guys have laying around. We all have laying around plastic sprue, and then this can be added, and it's gonna look like maybe pieces of concrete or bricks or maybe steel or metal just laying around. I like to place a model, as I said before, I don't know if I mentioned this, a little bit towards the back, giving him more space in the front where the arms are going to be located. And there you go. Same thing, you can just be careful not to put too much, just enough so the piece of plastic sticks to the sand, makes contact with the glue that is under the sand already. If you want to help us on Patreon, guys, I just opened my Patreon page, and this will help us continue the work, making content, and we can embark in creating unique looking models improving models. And you can see right away, there you go. And one side is the finished model, and this will be the first part of tutorial that we're going to be doing. And we're going to be making more models in front of you guys, so you guys can get ideas. Subscribe to the channel, guys, and if you like I say, you can support me on Patreon, and it will help us to get more pieces. We'll see you in the second part.